Shannon hits Skid Row disguised as a bum and the DA's man tonight at 10:30. And at the 11th hour, hear a complete summary of the news with Bob Wilson.
Rise and shine. There was never a football player like Boley Bolenchevich, and there was never a picture like the laugh-packed Rise and Shine with Milton Berle, Linda Darnell, and Jack Oakey. See this movie 4 premiere tonight at 11:15.
With new Dandrucide, your dandruff must go or your money back. Use it after every shampoo. Get Dandrucide today. WRCA-TV, Channel 4, New York.
Good evening. NBC Saturday News, Wilson Hall reporting. Secretary of State Dulles has cancer. The medical report says he will undergo radiation therapy. No further surgery is contemplated. We'll have a report from Washington. Fires across the continent caused 19 deaths. Flood crest on the Wabash passes. Dikes at West Terre Haute, Indiana hold firm. 500 New York bakers working in 15 bakeries ratify a new 3-year pact. Fidel Castro accepts premiership of Cuba. Scotland Yard prepares around-the-clock guard for Greek Cypriot Archbishop Makarios. Now, let's get the story of the Secretary of State from the nation's capital to NBC's Frank Burkholzer in Washington.
The scene of decision today was Walter Reed Hospital, where Secretary of State Dulles learned early this morning that he had cancer again. To Walter Reed came his family, including his wife and sister, his brother Alan. Also to Walter Reed came the acting Secretary of State of the moment, Undersecretary C. Douglas Dillon, much discussed tonight as a possible successor. And then President Eisenhower arrived and conferred with Dulles for 25 minutes on the basic question of whether John Foster Dulles could continue as Secretary of State. White House Acting Press Secretary Ann Wheaton read the President's report.
While I was with him, his doctors discussed with us their findings of the existence of malignancy, not fully determined at this time as to extent, but certain to require further treatment. I expressed the thoughts and prayers of all of us that the results of his operation and the further course of treatment will be successful. In order to allow time for this purpose, the Secretary continues on leave of absence. I will, of course, be in close touch with him constantly.
The basic meaning of this, a decision on whether to replace Secretary Dulles, postponed, pending results of further treatment. The medical details were supplied to us by State Department press officer Lincoln White.
A small nodular implant on the hernial sac was removed with the excess sac during the course of the operative procedure. This nodule proved to be an adenocarcinoma on microscopical examination. The fluid evacuated at surgery contained free cancer cells on cytological examination. No further surgery is contemplated. In the immediate future, radiation therapy will be used.
And so this is how President Eisenhower left it. Early next week at Walter Reed, radiation therapy will begin. Doctors have ruled out surgery, and so the question of whether the Dulles hand returns to foreign affairs seems to hang on the success or failure of these treatments. In the meantime, inevitable speculation on a successor. Undersecretary Christian Herter arrived in Washington this evening from vacation to become acting secretary. Herter said he had not been asked about becoming Secretary of State himself. If he were asked, said Herter, he would take the job. Frank Burkholzer, NBC News, Washington.
Messages of regret and sympathy poured in from around the world. Though no one has said so officially, there is great doubt that Secretary of State Dulles will be able to return to full-time duties at the State Department. With the possibility that Mr. Dulles might not be able to return to his cabinet post, the speculation, as Frank says, rises as to who might replace him. Undersecretary of State Christian Herter, as you've just heard, says he is available. 63-year-old Christian Herter was governor of Massachusetts for 2 terms, returned to the State Department in 1956. He's a polished diplomat, suffers from a painful arthritic condition, which has never caused him to miss a day's work, but forces him to use crutches and a wheelchair to get around. Under Secretary of State for Economic Affairs, C. Douglas Dillon ranks below Mr. Herter in the State Department's hierarchy. He's only 49, was recruited from Wall Street to join the government. Dillon also served as ambassador to France. He seems to be mentioned most frequently as the possible successor. Others mentioned as possibles, General Alfred Grunther, Thomas E. Dewey, and U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Henry Cabot Lodge. Fires raged through homes, hotels, and rooming houses in the United States and Canada today. 19 persons are dead, at least 50 hospitalized. The worst fire slashed through an old movie theater, reconverted into an apartment in Ashland, Kentucky. 11 persons died as fires trapped them on the second floor. There was no fire escape. One was to be installed next week. Fires in Reno, Nevada, at Purcell, Oklahoma, in Montreal killed 7. And in Cutton, California, a 3-year-old boy, whom his father thought he'd tossed out of the window, died. The father threw the baby's bedclothes out, but not the baby.